Hello once again. My name is Martin Popoff. We're back for another episode here of Overkill Rewind. This is the show where we put out a call to votes. We ask you to vote on the single greatest album of a certain year, and you have answered the call. We've got a great set of records here to talk about. The year we're going to talk about here is 1971. And before we get going, though, please patronize our Patreon and don't forget to subscribe. And we love when you comment in the comments below. It's great to have a big dialogue about all this stuff. Okay, 1971. What happened in 1971 in music? You know, the big sad news is Jim Morrison dies. He's discovered dead in his bathtub in Paris. That's obviously the big news. It follows upon some other big deaths in 1970. What else? Mick Jagger marries Bianca. We got the first Glastonbury Festival. Queen, Heart, Aerosmith all kind of get going with their classic lineups. The Fillmore West is closed. Not a lot of big news going on. There's a lot going on in the world in 1971, but not a lot going on in music in 1971. So let's get going. We have 5 picks here. We're going to do them in reverse order. I'm going to comment on all of them, but it's you, our fine viewers, who have picked these albums. Number 5 is Budgie by Budgie, the self-titled Budgie album, 1971. I've got a copy of that right here to show you. This is my original German copy that I got back in the day. There's the guys on the back. Personal memories of 1971. I mean, I was 8 years old at that time. I'm just surveying what we've got here for the albums. You know, I definitely knew about 1 or 2 of these. I was really starting to be a big music fan. I knew about all of this stuff except for Budgie, probably by about 1973 or so. So 1971, I'm just kind of getting my sea legs into being this big crazy music fan that I would be for the rest of my life. But yeah, so Budgie, June 1971 on MCA on CAP in the States. This is a Welsh band. They started going maybe 67, 68. They recorded all through the 70s and into the 80s. So Welsh band. This is recorded at Rockfield, the famous Welsh studio. Budgie is from Cardiff. So they're a trio, as you can see. Burke Shelley, Tony Borge, Ray Phillips. This record is a really heavy record for its day. We've often talked about 1970 kind of being the birth of heavy metal. Well, this is a pretty heavy album for 1971, but it's a little bit kind of thick and dated. You know, that Burke's singing, it's a little bit of an acquired taste. I personally like mid-years and later Budgie a little more, but a lot of people love this record. Obviously, it got our number 5 slot here. But yeah, there's some good heavy tracks on here. I mean, Homicidal, Suicidal is a well-known one. Rape with Locks, New Disintegrating Parachutist Woman, Guts, the opening track. Big crushing heavy riff produced by Roger Bain, who worked with Black Sabbath as well. So yeah, there you go. The debut from Budgie. The second one's pretty heavy too. Squawk. Obviously Metallica later covered Breadfan. Their biggest album is Bandolier from 1975. This is when they're on to A&M, at least in the States. Yeah. How was this record received at the time? I mean, it definitely is a very unknown band. They never were very famous. Like I say, it did get U.S. distribution, but yeah, super unknown band. This is never certified. It didn't chart. So it's basically a band and an album that became a cult classic later. So skull rating, let's give this one 3 out of 5. Moving on, our number 4 slot here on Overkill Rewind, 1971, we have Alice Cooper with Killer. Got a copy of that handy here, signed by Alice. There you go. Killer, that's one of the awesome band shots on the back. So Killer came out in November 71 on Warner Brothers. It's produced by Bob Ezrin. How was it received at the time? I mean, basically this band was really starting to make some waves because Love It to Death came out in March of 1971, and that had a big hit, I'm 18. Now, big problem, big thing. This is all credit to Alice Cooper. But this might have come up higher had it not had some vote splitting going on with you, the viewers, with Love It to Death. So this is a band that issued 2 albums in 1971. So yeah, so here we have Killer at the number 4 slot. You know, pretty big album. The album itself reached number 21 on Billboard. Be My Lover was a big hit, reached number 49. Under My Wheels reached number 59. So the band was well on its way. It had a lot of A lot of hits on it, and a lot of good, creepy, deep tracks like Dead Babies and Killer Itself. You Drive Me Nervous, you hear that on radio, something. Halo of Flies is kind of their big epic classic. So this is the classic Alice Cooper band before he goes solo. Of course, we've got Dennis Dunaway's very creative in here, Michael Bruce, Glenn Buxton, Neil Smith, and the Alice, of course, himself. There he is in his sort of older style of makeup. I mean, not a super heavy record, but a super kind of dark, and it's got a lot of mystery to it. So for Alice Cooper Killer, I think I'm going to go 3 out of 5 again. So we've got 2 3 out of 5 skulls here. Number 3 here on our 1971 survey is Deep Purple Fireball. It's got a lot of votes. So Deep Purple, little bit of a bio on them. You know, obviously they've already done the one classic super heavy album of the Mark II era in rock, you know, landmark album for 1970. Before that, they were a psych band. They had that little weird classical album in there, more or less commandeered by John Lord. But it is the album after Fireball that's going to be the big hit, Machine Head, with Smoke on the Water, Highway Star, Space Truck, and that's 1972. But this record came out July 9th, 1971. It's on Harvest in the UK, Warner in the States. It was a gatefold like that, right? In the States, we got Strange Kind of Woman on our record, and in the UK, they had Demon's Eye. Bit of a strange record. It's got, you know, that proto speed metal classic, the title track Fireball, but it's also got The Mule and Fools. No One Came is a good heavy one on here. It's got kind of a jokey country tune, Anyone's Daughter. So it doesn't have a lot of songs on it, and it's a little bit proggy and a little bit out there. It's certainly a less, you know, hard-hitting Between the Eyes album as in rock, and less kind of like well-written compared to Machine Head, which would be a big hit. It went gold in the States. It reached #1 in the UK. So it was well received. I mean, this band was essentially, you know, a pretty veteran band at this point, although the lineup was kind of new. #24 in Canada, #32 in the US. Let's see, in terms of a skull rating on this record, I'm going to go 3.5 out of 5 skulls on this one. So we're notching up a little bit. #2 slot here on Overkill Rewind 1971 is Led Zeppelin IV. This band right here. So there's my Zeppelin book, there's my Sabbath books, Deep Purple books, all strategically placed. I've written books on all these bands, I guess, except for Budgie. But Led Zeppelin IV comes out November 8th, 1971. It's on Atlantic. How was it received at the time? Well, it was received quite well because it's now a double diamond album, 23 times platinum in the US, one of the greatest selling albums of all time, 37 million copies worldwide. Massive hit, #1 in the UK, #2 in the US. Held off, I think, by a Carole King album and a Sly and the Family Stone album at different times. You know, Zeppelin, of course, it's 4. This is the untitled, sometimes called Zozo, sometimes called Untitled, or Led Zeppelin or 4. But basically, Led Zeppelin 3 was quite an acoustic album. It only had like 3 kind of heavy songs on it. Led Zeppelin 2 was hard-hitting. Led Zeppelin 1 was essentially hard-hitting. But they're a massive band by this point, and they're squeezing in these albums fast, right? I mean, they're basically started, you know, essentially recording 69, and now we're up to their 4th album in 1971. You know, a bit of a review of this album. I mean, how can you not love this album? It's just one of the biggest and greatest of all time. You've got Black Dog with that huge molten riff and that stop-start thing, and Robert Plant shrieking away. You've got Rock and Roll, which is a frenzied old style rock and roll tune. Stairway to Heaven, one of the biggest songs of all time. I'm not a big Stairway to Heaven fan, but Going to California, Misty Mountain Hop, When the Levee Breaks, like a lot of cool variety on this, some good acoustic stuff, but it's essentially a pretty heavy rocking album. And the critics, everybody loved that because of Led Zeppelin 3 being a tiny bit of a letdown in terms of being just a little bit too soft for the guys. So in terms of a skull rating, I'm going to go 5 out of 5 skulls on Led Zeppelin 4. All right, we are up to #1 here on Overkill Rewind. This one by a landslide. You guys know your metal. You know that this is the heaviest record here, and it's an awesome, awesome record. It is Black Sabbath, Master of Reality, one of these expanded CD reissues. So Master of Reality came out July 21st, 1971 on Vertigo in the UK. Ours over here came out on Warner's. It went to number 5 in the UK, number 8 on Billboard in the States. It's now currently at double platinum, but it was well received at the time. I mean, Sabbath was well on its way. The first album was, a fair bit of a hit right out the gate, February 1970. They put out Paranoid later on in 1970, and that was a hit with Paranoid, War Pigs, Iron Man. So this was a big band already. They were already doing good business. And man, this record is so good. I mean, it's basically, they've got this crazy, extreme molten production values on here that you hear immediately after that Cough on Sweet Leaf when Tony Kerrangs in with the riff. Huge kind of like red line drums and bass and the guitar, and not a lot of songs on it. And then these little acoustic respites in between, but you've got After Forever, Sweet Leaf, Children of the Grave, Into the Void. What am I forgetting? Lord of this World, right? Some of my personal favorite Black Sabbath songs. And I always say this is a close second for me after Sabotage as my favorite Sabbath album. Just really big, warm, gauzy sound and that iconic album cover. I just love this record. I think it's amazing. Let's give it a rating. Obviously, this is going to be 5 out of 5 skulls. Like I say, this just ran away with the votes as the greatest album of 1971, voted by you, our faithful viewers here on Overkill Rewind. All right, so there it is. Budgie, Alice Cooper Killer, Deep Purple Fireball, Led Zeppelin IV, Black Sabbath Master of Reality. The honorable mentions that got a fair number of votes. We have Jethro Tull, Aqualung, Alice Cooper, Love It to Death, which we talked about. Uriah Heep, Look at Yourself. That's one of my favorites on out of all of these records. It'd probably be my 3rd favorite album. Uriah Heep also had vote splitting going on with their Salisbury album, also out in 1971. So they actually would have leapt on had Salisbury not been there, and all those votes would have gone to Look at Yourself. Leaf Hound, Growers of Mushroom. This is one of those rare UK kind of blues rock progressive albums. That's one of these super expensive records that's, risen in estimation artistically over time. And also Sir Lord Baltimore, the self-titled, which is not as good as the debut, Kingdom Come, 1970. So there you go. Those are our honorable mentions vote-wise. In terms of records that I, would have liked to have seen on this list, my personal favorites would have been MC5 High Time, Nazareth's debut, self-titled. It's got some good heavy songs on it. Thin Lizzy's debut, not heavy at all, but I love it. Thin Lizzy's one of my favorite bands. So those 3 I could have seen as, I would have liked to seen them get into the honorable mentions, say. But of all these, again, to net it out, I would have liked to have seen Look at Yourself make the list because that's my favorite Uriah Heep album. The production values are unbelievable on that record. Okay, there you go. That's it. Let's wrap up then. So this is it for Overkill Rewind 1971. Hope you like these picks. Again, feel free to comment below, start the conversation. Tell us what you think. I mean, the call to votes was amazing. We got so many votes in. It was awesome. Again, we have our Patreon, and also don't forget to subscribe. So there you go. Martin Popoff signing off. See you again next time.